Welcome everyone to my complete Wriothesley guide. In this guide, I will try my best to give a brief overview of his kit, then discuss the different playstyles you can run, and the best artifacts, sets, and stats you should be looking for, then his best weapons, teams, and constellations. Wriothesley is the first cryo-catalyst character in the game. His kit scales off attack, and he has a crit damage ascension bonus. His normal attacks do 5 hits and a charged attack. Being a catalyst, all his normal attacks deal cryo damage. The majority of Wriothesley's damage comes from his normal attacks, so leveling them is very important. Wriothesley's elemental skill, Ice Fang Rush, increases his normal attack damage by a fixed percent. When Wriothesley's HP is above 50%, each normal attack will drain 4.5% of max HP. The HP consumption can be triggered every 0.1 seconds. This skill has a duration of 10 seconds and a cooldown of 16 seconds. Wriothesley's Elemental Burst, Dark Gold Wolf Bite, deals 5 instances of AoE cryo damage scaling on Wriothesley's attack. His Elemental Burst also deals Usia-aligned damage. This skill has a cooldown of 15 seconds and an energy cost of 60. With that said, his talent priority should be first to level up his normal attacks, then Elemental Skill, and lastly Elemental Burst. Moving on to passives, Wriothesley's first passive is a crafting passive. When crafting weapon ascension materials, Wriothesley has a 10% chance to craft double the product. His second passive activates when Wriothesley's HP is under 60%. When the conditions are met, he will gain Gracious Rebuke. During this state, his next charged attack will not consume any stamina and deal 50% additional damage, and it heals 30% of Wriothesley's max HP. This passive can only be triggered once every 5 seconds. His third and last passive increases attack by 6%. Every time Wriothesley's HP changes, it can be stacked up to 5 times, increasing his attack to a total of 30% bonus attack. Wriothesley has 2 main playstyles. The first is Reverse Melt, and the second being a Freeze team. Both styles have their advantages and disadvantages. Starting with Reverse Melt, the team's damage will be much higher than a Freeze team, since the melt reaction increases damage by a lot. This is great, especially in situations when you're facing a boss. Unlike Freeze teams, which don't really deal reaction damage, therefore you will be struggling a bit more against enemies with a lot of HP. Freeze teams shine more against multiple enemies. This is especially true in content like the current 4.1 Abyss with the Rift Hounds on floor 1. Freezing them will stop the Rift Hounds from moving around quickly, and with a crowd control unit, you will be able to clear them easier. In content like the Rift Hounds, you may find melt teams to struggle more, but with the right melt team, you can still clear multiple enemies, but it will not be as easy as a freeze team. There are also character factors to consider. In a melt team, you can run 2 of the best units in the game, Xiangling and Bennett. Bennett can both heal you and provide a large attack buff. Xiangling can apply a lot of pyro to enable melt, but in a team like this, your Xiangling will need higher investment, since she will deal a sizable portion of your team's damage. Unlike freeze teams, which can be run with units built to support with low investment. Both teams are viable, melt being higher in damage and investment, and freeze being easier to play and lower in investment. It is up to you which playstyle you want to play, and I will provide you with build options for both teams. Starting with artifact sets, for a melt team your best option would be Marechaussee Hunter, as you can gain 36% additional crit rate from Wriothesley's HP consumption using his elemental skill. Vermilion Hereafter is a good option for Wriothesley, as it gives you a lot of attack when your HP changes, but it's not as powerful as Marechaussee Hunter. Both Desert Pavilion Chronicle and Ximenea's Reminiscence are good for Wriothesley, as both of the sets increase normal attack damage. Between these 2 sets, most people will have better Ximenea's Reminiscence pieces, since it shares a domain with the widely used Emblem of Severed Fate set. If you do not have a full 4-piece set, you can mix and match any Elemental Mastery, Attack, and Cryo bonus 2-piece sets. Although keep in mind that there is a significant difference between a full 4-piece Marechaussee Hunter set and any other 2-piece mix. So I highly recommend that you farm Marechaussee Hunter, as it is also paired with another good support set, making it an efficient domain. I also want to note that Blizzard Strayer on a melt team will not be consistent, as you must attack an enemy affected by cryo to gain 20 crit rate, and you will gain another 20% if the enemy is frozen. So, in a melt team, you may not always be attacking enemies affected by cryo. For a freeze build, the ranking stays the same, but Blizzard Strayer becomes the best choice. Blizzard Strayer provides a bit more crit rate when enemies are frozen and cryo damage bonus. The difference between Blizzard Strayer and Marechosi Hunter is not large in a freeze team, so you could still run Marechosi Hunter in a freeze team. If you are mixing two-piece sets, you do not want an Elemental Mastery set, and it is useless in a freeze team. As for stats, you will be looking for an attack sands and a cryo damage goblet if possible, and either crit rate or damage circlet, whichever you need more of. For substats, you will want attack and crit rate for a freeze team. In a reverse melt team, you will need Elemental Mastery alongside crit and attack. If you're building for melt, I would recommend prioritizing the first 100 Elemental Mastery, as your damage will be buffed a lot by Elemental Mastery. You could also go for an Elemental Mastery Sands if you find the substats much better. As for energy recharge, Wriothesley does not need a lot of energy, as his burst cost is 60, and he will be staying on the field for the majority of his gameplay, so you should not focus on getting a lot of energy recharge. A few rolls in different pieces will be sufficient. Moving on to weapons. I will switch between melt and freeze graphs, so feel free to pause and compare each weapon. And keep in mind that depending on your own build, your best weapons may differ slightly. Starting with melt, Cashflow Supervision. Wriothesley's signature weapon is his best in-slot choice. It has a crit rate substat, and through its effect increases attack and normal and charged attack damage. Tuletula's Remembrance can be much closer to Cashflow Supervision if you can reach its maximum stacks. It is a close second, and if you do have Tuletula's Remembrance, I would recommend using it on Wriothesley instead of wishing for Cashflow Supervision. Another notable weapon on this list is the Wriothesley. The Wriothesley has 3 possible effects to trigger. One increases attack, the other increases Elemental Mastery, and the last increases elemental damage. All buffs can be used by Melt Wriothesley, making the Wriothesley the best 4-star weapon. Although once you trigger the effects, you will have to wait 20 seconds after the effect ends to be able to trigger an effect again. This means that in your second rotation, you will likely miss out on any buffs from the weapon. Memory of Dust requires your character to be shielded to fully activate its effect, but having a shielder may take away a spot that might probably benefit your team more. In my opinion, the best free-to-play weapon would be Flowing Purity. It has an attack substat and increases your elemental bonus through its effect. Flowing Purity can be crafted so it's accessible to all players. Flowing Purity is also ahead of both Battle Pass options. Sacrificial Fragments effect is not very useful for Wriothesley, as he does not need to cast his skill twice to gain the most field time, as you will need the downtime to recast your party members' skills. Switching to a freeze build, rankings mostly stay the same, but weapons that increase Elemental Mastery will fall back a lot since they don't buff a freeze team's damage. The Wriothesley also falls behind since the Elemental Mastery bonus it may give you will be useless, making only 2 of its 3 effects usable on Freeze Wriothesley. Since you do gain more crit rate with Blizzard Strayer, crit damage weapons do shine a bit more. Flowing Purity still holds its position as the best free-to-play weapon and performs even better in a freeze team relative to other weapons. Changing onto teams. For a melt team, you will need a pyro unit that can apply a lot of pyro from off-field. The best character for this task is none other than Xiangling. Then for your third slot, you will want another pyro character to get the bonus attack from the pyro resonance, or a cryo character to provide 15 extra crit rate from the cryo resonance. Having a healer in your team is not necessary for Wriothesley, since he can heal himself from his passive, but it may be comfier to run a healer in your team. A pyro or cryo healer will be very good. You can use healers like Mika or Bennett, who can also buff your attack. For your last slot, you can either go for a defensive unit or one that will buff your damage. You will also want this last unit to not interfere with your melt reactions. Going for a defensive option like Zhongli can buff your damage and not require you to run a healer. Other units such as Anemo healers will be very strong since they can provide resistance shred from the Verdicent Verner set. Or you can run an offensive last slot like Kazuha or Yunjin. So, with this information, the best team for reverse melt Wriothesley would be Xiangling, Bennett, and Kazuha. Xiangling will apply a lot of pyro and deal a lot of damage through her elemental burst. Bennett provides healing and a huge attack buff, while Kazuha will provide resistance reduction and elemental damage bonus. With that said, You can also run double Cryo and double Pyro in your team. You could even swap Bennett for Shenhe if your other teams need Bennett. In most cases, stick with Pyro and Cryo characters, or a character that won't directly interfere with your reactions. You can also run teams with Dendro reactions, such as Burning and Hyper Bloom, since Dendro does not react with Cryo. You could, for example, run a Hyper Bloom team with a Dendro, Hydro, and Electro unit, and leave the last spot to be Wriothesley. This team is called Hyper Fridge. You still deal Bloom damage while also freezing your enemies. For a Freeze team, you will want to run a Hydro unit to enable Freeze. Alongside Wriothesley, you will want an off-field Hydro applier. There are many good options for this role, such as Yelan, Xingqiu, or even Kokomi, who can also heal. If you have a good Cryo support such as Shenhe, you can run your third unit to buff your Wriothesley and activate the Cryo Resonance, giving you extra crit rate. And for the last slot, you will want to run a unit that does not interfere with Freeze. In most scenarios, an Anemo unit will be your best option. You can run Kazuha or Sucrose to buff your damage, or Jean as a healer. You can also run Bennett, since he does not apply a lot of Pyro from his kit. So his best Freeze team would be Wriothesley, Shenhe, Kazuha, and Yelan, or Xingqiu for Hydro application. With Wriothesley, you can run the upcoming Hydro Archon, although she is not released yet. Instead of freezing, you can run another Cryo unit to play Mono Cryo. These teams are good in scenarios where you can't freeze. Having another Cryo unit who can buff Wriothesley's damage might be better in fights where you can't freeze. Moving on to Constellations, Wriothesley's first constellation enables him to receive the Gracious Rebuke effect from his passive when the 5th hit of his normal attack under the elemental skill damage buff hits. With his C1, you can gain 1 Gracious Rebuke every 2.5 seconds. The same effects still apply, but this time his charged attack bonus will be 200% instead of 50%, and when the charged attack hits, the duration of the elemental skill buff will be increased by 4 seconds. The duration increase can only happen once every elemental skill. This constellation is a big damage increase, as you will be able to attack more with your Wriothesley and heal, even if your HP is below 60%. This constellation also changes your attack combo, as it will be important to use your charged attack. Wriothesley's Constellation 2 increases the attack bonus from his passive by 40% of the original bonus for each stack. This bonus can only trigger by using his Elemental Burst. This constellation is a nice damage buff, about the same increase you can get from his C1. With his C2, you will also have to correctly time your burst to make use of the additional attack increase. His C3 increases the normal attack level by 3, and C5 increases elemental skill level by 3. Wriothesley's Constellation 4 increases the HP restored from Gracious Rebuke by 50% of his max HP. If Wriothesley's healed and the healing overflows, you will gain 20% bonus attack speed for 4 seconds. If Wriothesley is off-field, all of your party members will receive 10% bonus attack speed for 6 seconds. This constellation does increase your damage, but not as much as his C1 and C2. Wriothesley's final constellation increases the crit rate of his Gracious Rebuke charged attack by 10% and crit damage by 80%. The charged attack will also deal additional cryo damage that counts as charged attack damage. Although all of Wriothesley's constellations increase damage, I would only recommend going for the first 2, since they do change a lot compared to the rest of his constellations. And lastly, for the people who want to know if you should get his signature weapon or C1, the answer is C1. His C1, with the craftable flowing purity, will play better than C0 with his signature cash flow supervision. With such a good free-to-play weapon, going for Wriothesley's constellations will bring you more value compared to his weapon. And that's all from me. Thank you for making it this far, and thank you for watching.